Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Noah Humphrey, and today we are going over post 9/11 and the war on terror. Right? Overview and learning objectives, right? We're going to be going over the Americas before 9/11, the effects of 9/11 on the Americas and the rest of the world, Bush's presidency and the war on terror, and additionally, we're going to be looking at Obama's presidency, the way he reacted to the war on terror, right? And then the rules of the game. So, right, America's before 9/11, right? It was relative peace, right? We just got finished with the Gulf Wars in the 90s, right? NAFTA had been signed in by Clinton in the early 90s. We were seeing that come through fruition. It didn't necessarily concern many Latin American countries. However, Mexico was a part of that. They were benefiting from that as well as the Americas. It was good ties there. Right, and then when Bush, when he was elected before 9/11, he believed in a strong Americas, right, like the Western Hemisphere, and then like a look south commitment, right. So he was looking to build ties with Latin American countries, whether it be economical, geopolitical, or whatever that case may be, right. Things were looking pretty good, right. That's just kind of like the overall mindset of America in the world, right, and then until some people wanted to crash some planes into the World Trade Center on September 11th, right? It's the largest attack on American soil since Pearl Harbor. There's nearly 3,000 deaths, over 6,000 injuries, right? 2 planes were crashed in the World Trade Center, one in a field in Pennsylvania that was going for the Capitol. And then lastly, you had the plane crashing into the Pentagon. It's pretty interesting facts about 9/11, right? That like one of the attackers was pulled over on just like a routine traffic stop on his way to the airport, right? There's a lot of evidence suggesting that it could have been prevented. However, we were just so spread out with all of our information, right? That I don't want to get down a rabbit hole, but that kind of led to the Department of Homeland Security, right? That the Bush administration created to prevent that. It's kind of like why everything's so monitored today, right? The attack was carried out by Al-Qaeda, right? Leader was Osama bin Laden, as we all know, all learned. Right, this is the spark that ignited the war on terror. Right, this changed America and the world really forever. Right, just like I stated earlier, how we travel, TSA, like surveillance, just everything, the way the world acts. Right, so the war on terror. Right, this was spearheaded by the Bush administration. Right after September 11th, we had a real strong patriotic feeling in America, right? You can see the old videos, right, at baseball games, football games, everyone's waving the American flag, everyone's wearing red, white, and blue, right? Nobody really seeing each other as individuals, but rather Americans, and that was like one of the first times in a long time, right? So Bush really capitalized on this and just initiated the war on terror, right? He's like, you're either for us or you're with the terrorists, right? These are like some real bold claims, right? And he just had all America's support, right? His approval rating was super high in the 80s and 90s, right? Which is pretty, I think it's pretty funny, right? Because Bush is regarded as one of like the worst presidents in recent history. However, like he had one of the highest approval ratings during his presidency, right? Just like I said, skyrocketed Bush's approval ratings, right? There's a strong support for a multi-nation military force in the Middle East, right? Not just America was supporting Bush, but the whole world, right? They wanted a strong military presence to hold whoever carried out these attacks accountable, right? Additionally, right, there was weapons of mass destruction thought to be in Iraq, right, with Saddam Hussein. He was working hand in hand with the terrorists, right? That was something George Bush really believed was going on in there, right? So with this, the Bush administration, they went to the UN, said, hey, we think there's weapons of mass destruction here. The UN's like, hey, we're going to need some more time. Go and investigate this thoroughly so we don't pull the trigger on this. Bush said, no, we ain't got time on this, right? Just spearheaded, right, the invasion of Iraq. We weren't the only country spearheading this, right? We had United Kingdom with us as well, and like about 20 other countries, right? Swift invasion of Iraq beginning in March 2003, right? As far as a military standpoint, this was like a great success, right? Capture Saddam Hussein in December, right? Just a few months later. And then in May 2004, victory, just a little over a year, right? You got the picture of Saddam Hussein's statue being torn down, right? That's a picture that we all know, right? So this win in Iraq helped Bush win the 2004 election, right? Like patriotism was at an all-time high and everything, right? Shortly after his election, right? Turns out there was no weapons of mass destruction found in Iraq, right? This really tainted Bush's image U.S. approval fell throughout the world, right? Like, we were wrong. We prematurely jumped the gun, and it totally just came up in our face, right? And this was just the beginning of the war on terror, right? Yeah, leading into Obama's presidency, right? Bush had like all-time low approval ratings, right? Problems were inward when Obama took office, right? The housing market crashed, the economy was in the dumps, right? Unemployment was high, and then additionally to this, he had a super expensive war fought in the Middle East on two different fronts, right? So, and then Bush's idea of fighting the war was like a democracy, and then building up nations, and then educating those leaders and such to lead with the democracy first ideas, right? And then Obama's method, right, in the Middle East was just beating Al Qaeda, right? Like, we don't need to really be in there. We're just gonna get in there, get the job done, and get out, right? Yeah, and as you can see, right, he pulled out of Iraq in 2011, right? We didn't totally withdraw from Iraq. However, there was a few troops stayed back, whatever the case was, right? And then, as we all know, Osama bin Laden was killed by SEAL Team 6 in Abbottabad, Afghanistan in 2011, right? That was a major victory in the Obama presidency, right? Approaching re-election, support for the war in Afghanistan dwindled, right? War crimes, and then just the war just being drawn out so long, the public just could not support it. It was just so expensive, right? And like I said, with the war crimes, right, you had like U.S. snipers urinating on dead bodies, just troops just murdering like innocent civilians and such. So that just overall just gave like the war just a horrible taste in the American people's mouth. All right, then going into the rules of the game, right? So the whole time, right, it was implicit rather than explicit. So what that means is it's like geoeconomic versus geopolitical, right? Typically, wars are fought on like a geoeconomic front, I should say, right? You're going for like territory, money, or not necessarily money, but income, in whatever the case is with that, right? Versus geopolitical is fighting like an idea, right? Which is a lot harder to kill an idea, right? It's easier to kill a person and take their stuff than it is to kill an idea, right? Nations responded to attacks in any way they choose, right? Preventative action is appropriate, right? A good example is the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, right? We don't have time to wait. We got to go now, right? It's preventative, right? And then failure to adhere to international treaties and conventions, right? Just as that, right? Failure to abide by the UN. They told us no, but we went ahead, jumped the gun, and went in there anyways, right? Right, and then effects on Latin America and relations with the United States. So during this time period, we were just so distracted, right? Not necessarily distracted, but so involved in the Middle East that the Latin America wasn't necessarily concerned at the time. However, right, initial support from Latin American countries was very high after 9/11, right? Just like I said, throughout the world, they loved America and such, right? There was a lot of Hispanic casualties during September 11th, those attacks, right? And then a lot of countries, right, just lost support after the UN Council in 2003 when we went ahead and jumped the gun. I think there was only one Latin American country that approved of us, the invasion of Iraq, right? And then additionally, like Latin America feared Bush's spread of democracy, right? You've seen throughout the history, right, what the spread of democracy had done to Latin America, and they didn't like that. They kind of feared that and veered away from that, right? Right, and just Latin America was, like I said, just never an overall priority during this time period. We were just so drawn out with our own problems, and then the war over in the Middle East, right? And then after Obama's second term, he started opening up to the region, right, through trade and just other opportunities that he possibly could. Kind of left us more on like a good note with immigration and such going through. But that concludes my presentation. Thank you.